Well, that's weird. Why did the Uber drop us off here at an electric charging station?
Yeah, I thought we were flying to New York, for the auto show.
Yeah. I just got a text message.
Oh, who's it from?
It's the producers. Welcome to Richmond. Given the high cost of fuel, we needed to find a more economical way for you to get to New York. You're going to drive this Chevy Equinox EV from Richmond to New York on a single charge. We've left you with a full charge and sealed off the charging door with impenetrable painter's tape to ensure there's no tampering. On the plus side, you have Super Cruise for the journey. Good luck. They want us to take this to New York.
Wait a minute. This only has 319 miles of range. It's not enough.
Yeah, I mean, New York's what, like 320, 330 miles from here? I mean, that's close, but...
Hold on. This is the older all-wheel drive model. It only has 285 miles of range. That's not enough. This car can't do that.
What? They taped this charging door closed. Who did this?
Maybe we could just,
Don't touch the tape.
Okay.
So let me get this straight. They want us to drive this from Richmond through Washington, D.C., past Baltimore, past Philadelphia, through New Jersey, to New York on a single charge.
Apparently.
That's impossible.
Well, look on the bright side. We finally get to drive the Equinox EV, which we have said many glowing things about, and we get to try out Super Cruise.
Oh, great, Super Cruise. Yeah, it can Super Cruise itself all the way until it runs out of battery, and we're stranded on the side of the road.
Can you guys pull yourselves together?
Welcome to the driver's line. I'm Greg.
And I'm Jordan.
And today, we're going to try something that probably isn't going to work.
Yeah, we're going to drive this Chevy Equinox EV all the way from Richmond, Virginia
to New York City for the New York International Auto Show.
All on a single solitary charge.
So you'll probably find us somewhere stranded on the side of I-95.
Yeah, 30 miles south of New York in New Jersey. Oh, hang on. What's this?
This is the tape that the producers used to seal up that charge door. Either they really trust us or they absolutely do not trust us.
Oh, wait, look at this.
I see what this is. They're giving us the tools to try and beat physics.
Ooh, encourage physics. More tire pressure, less rolling resistance.
And the taped up panels means more aerodynamics.
So we could tape up the body panels.
Pump up the tires.
And we could get rid of any unnecessary weight.
So we basically have the world's most unique rolling sides experiment.
Perfect. Cue the music. All right, well, we took care of as much weight as we could. It's basically a race car now.
Weight reduction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, are you sure we shouldn't take this with us? I mean...
What would we need that for?
Fair point.
So, with a full charge and what we believed was a brilliantly optimized electric SUV, we entered our destination, New York City. The car helpfully suggested a charging stop along the way, which we immediately deleted, because that would be cheating. What we were left with was the reality of the situation, a journey of 323 miles, and according to the car, we would arrive with negative 19% battery, which, for those unfamiliar with electric vehicles, is less than ideal. Still, confident in our completely scientific modifications and questionable decision making, we set off.
Alright, if you like car reviews, news, and the occasional bit of road trip chaos,
Like our Tesla road trip, where our producers somehow decided that charging was just a mere suggestion.
make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing.
Because today we're attempting something that probably isn't going to work.
Yeah, we're driving the Chevrolet Equinox EV from Richmond, Virginia
To New York City for the New York International Auto Show.
on one charge.
Which, based on the numbers, you can't do.
Let's find out. While we begin what will either be an impressive demonstration of EV efficiency or a very public mistake somewhere in New Jersey, let's talk about the car itself.
Yeah, so this is the Chevy Equinox EV, which is Chevy's all-electric compact crossover that debuted for the 2024 model year. And in the EV world, this thing is kind of a big deal. I mean, it's very affordable, which is quite good.
Right, for years EVs have been luxury cars with charging ports. The Equinox EV is Chevy trying to bring that technology to something more in line with what normal people might actually buy.
Yeah, visually, I think it works. It's clean, it's modern, and it doesn't really scream like, look at me, I'm electric, like some of the earlier EVs and hybrids do.
Yeah, it's not trying too hard, and that's kind of the nice simplicity to it. Up front, you get the now very familiar split headlight design.
Which, if we're honest, is a little played out at this point.
Yeah, every automaker discovered this design around the same time and has pretty much now have it in every single car, crossover, and SUV they sell.
Yeah, but I mean, Chevy does a nice job with the execution, right? I mean, it has slim DRLs up top, and the actual headlights seamlessly are integrated into the bumper down below.
Yeah, and out across the front, there's this full-width LED light bar that ties everything together. Yeah, it looks pretty cool at night. Dimension-wise, this sits squarely in the compact crossover territory.
Yeah, that's right. Length comes in at 190 inches, width is 77 inches, and height is roughly 65 inches, and it's riding on a 116-inch wheelbase, which is pretty generous for this class.
Yeah, the wheelbase is nice because it helps out with the interior space and the ride comfort.
Which we'll talk about later if we manage to make it out of Virginia.
From the side, I think, is where the design really works best, though.
Yeah, the proportions are really clean. I mean, you've got a fairly long wheelbase, short overhangs, and a roofline that slopes just enough to look modern without completely destroying rear headroom.
Yeah, this color combo helps it really stand out. This is Riptide Blue paired with a white contrast roof, which gives it a bit of that floating roof vibe and breaks up what would otherwise be that pretty standard crossover shape.
Yeah, I mean, it's subtle, but in a parking lot full of gray SUVs, this actually kind of pops.
Yeah, wheel options also depend on the trim, but our LT Tester comes with this clean 19-inch wheel design, which really should help our range out versus that bigger 21-inch on the RS.
Yeah, and around back, Chevy keeps it clean too. Got slim horizontal taillights and a subtle spoiler, and a whole less is more approach.
Yeah, it's modern without being weird and distinctive without looking like a spaceship.
Yeah, that's great because we want to look good stranded on the side of I-95.
All right, sit rep. We are now about 60 miles into our trip from Richmond to New York, and that puts us right around Fredericksburg.
Yeah, that means we still have 263 miles to go.
And according to the car, we still have 258 miles of range.
So mathematically speaking, it's kind of a situation.
Yeah, now to give ourselves the best possible chance of actually making it, we have turned this Equinox into an EV hypermiling experiment.
Yes, everything we're doing right now is about maximizing efficiency. First of all, Greg's got Super Cruise engaged, and we've set the speed to a very disciplined 10 miles an hour under the speed limit.
Yes, which on this interstate makes us feel like a rolling roadblock, except for right now because we are sitting in a bunch of delightful DC traffic.
This is true, but in addition to Super Cruise, we've also minimized our climate control with the HVAC fan on the lowest setting, and it's about 75 degrees today in the DMV, which is optimal for the car, but it's definitely a little toasty in here.
Yeah, we're also running the car in the normal drive mode after fixing it from someone who left it in sport, which is the most economical here on the Equinox EV and the most aggressive modes tend to encourage enthusiasm.
Yeah, I'll admit that's, not super helpful when you're trying to stretch your electrons, but it is fun.
And finally, we've adopted what I would call strategic highway positioning.
Also known as sitting behind big trucks.
Drafting.
Exactly.
So far, though, the numbers are interesting.
Yeah, because if range starts dropping faster than the miles we're covering, we're going to have a very long way somewhere in New Jersey.
All right, so we talked about the outside of the Equinox EV, so now let's talk about where we're spending the next several hours, the interior.
Yeah, which for a vehicle that's supposed to be more of the kind of affordable EV in Chevy's lineup, this is actually pretty nice.
Yeah, the first thing that you notice is the screen situation.
Yeah, Chevy went big there. You've got an 11-inch digital driver display right in front of you, and this massive 17.7-inch infotainment screen in the center.
Yeah, it's running Google built in, so you've got Google Maps, Assistant, all that stuff directly integrated into the system.
Yeah, that's actually pretty helpful on a trip like this because the navigation is constantly looking for things like traffic and charging stations and energy use.
Not that we're planning to visit any charging stations today.
Yeah, and with that taped charge door, we couldn't even if we wanted to.
Material quality in here is pretty solid too.
Yeah, you've got soft touch materials on the dash, some pretty nice textures throughout the cabin, and depending on the trim, you can get things like contrast stitching and ambient lighting.
It feels modern without being overly complicated or futuristic try-hard.
There's honestly also a decent amount of storage in here too.
Yeah, we've got this big center console, decent cup holders, and this open area down here underneath the center stack where you can toss phones, cables, snacks.
Yeah, all the things you'd normally bring on a road trip.
Which we removed earlier for weight savings. All right, so space in here is pretty good too, thanks to that big wheelbase and the flat floor.
Yeah, you're looking at over 41 inches up here, and rear passengers still get 38 inches of legroom, which is pretty competitive for the class.
Yeah, so adults can sit back there without their knees touching the seat in front of them.
Yeah, and cargo space is pretty solid too. Behind the second row, you get about 26.4 cubic feet, and if you fold the back seats down, and that expands to just over 57 cubic feet.
Yeah, which is plenty of space for luggage, assuming you didn't throw everything that wasn't screwed down on the pavement back in Richmond.
Yeah, well, comfort-wise, the seats are pretty supportive. They're cushioned enough for long drives like this, but they still have some structure so you aren't sinking into them.
Yeah, and depending on trim, you can get things like heated and ventilated front seats, heated steering wheel, and all the usual comfort features you expect in a modern car.
Yeah, which we're mostly choosing not to use right now.
Overall, though, this is a really nice place to spend time.
And that's a good thing, because at 60 miles an hour, we're going to be spending quite a bit of time in here today.
All right, time for another situation report. We're now about 120 miles into our trip, which puts us just through DC and headed towards Baltimore.
And the big update is the climate strategy.
Which is to say, we basically turn the climate control off.
So now it's getting warm, and the aroma is evolving.
Yeah, it's 2 grown men, minimal airflow, and hours of range anxiety. Really? Pass that over here. Efficiency is important.
Well, on that note, the car says we have about 203 miles left, but we still need about 203 miles to get to New York.
Well, so we're pretty much closing in on our target, surprisingly, so I think we might actually have a chance.
Well, let's not celebrate yet.
All right, since we've been letting the car do most of the work, and while we still have electricity, this is probably a good time to talk about one of the big available tech features on the Equinox EV, which is Super Cruise.
Yeah, which, if you're not familiar, is GM's hands-free highway driving system. And the big headline feature here is exactly what Greg is doing now.
Hands-free, baby.
Yeah, as long as you're on a compatible highway, the system allows you to drive completely hands-free.
Now, it's not autonomous driving or pretend autonomous driving like another automaker. You still have to pay attention to the road.
Yeah, you might say you have to supervise the system, which is good because there's actually an infrared camera on the steering column that tracks your head and eye position to ensure you're doing just that.
Yeah, if you start looking at your phone or not paying attention, the system will warn you and eventually disengage.
Which is probably a good thing. Another thing that makes Super Cruise work so well is that it uses pre-mapped highways.
That's right, GM has scanned hundreds of thousands of miles of highways across North America using LiDAR mapping.
Yeah, so the car knows the road extremely well even before you get there.
That's why it's so confident staying centered in the lane and handling straights. I was going to say curves, but it's I-95, and there really aren't many of those.
But there's plenty of traffic.
Yes,
And
plenty of traffic.
Yes, and for road trips like ours, it really makes the drive a lot easier. Super Cruise is also managing the adaptive cruise control, so it's adjusting its speed based on the plenty of traffic ahead.
Which means we can lock in our very scientific 60 miles an hour, which is closer to 1 mile an hour right now, and let the car manage the electron consumption for us.
Yeah, and the newer versions of Super Cruise, like the one on our tester, will even do automatic lane changes or suggest lane changes if the car thinks you could be in a faster lane.
Which we are absolutely not doing today.
Absolutely not. No, we are firmly committed to being the slowest vehicle on I-95, which is ironic since we're sitting in traffic.
Yeah. And for a long highway drive like this, it really does reduce fatigue.
Yeah, instead of constantly steering and managing speed, you're mostly just monitoring the car and enjoying the drive.
Or in our case, watching the range and hoping it stops ticking down.
Yes, that too.
Okay. You want the good news or the bad news?
Let's start with the good news.
Well, the good news is we've now made 180 miles into our trip and are nearly in Delaware, and we still have about 156 miles of range remaining.
Okay, that's actually not terrible.
Yeah, the bad news, I have to pee.
You gotta be kidding me.
Nah, I've been holding it since we talked about Super Cruise.
All right, we can just pull off at the next exit, but just to be clear, we're not allowed to charge.
Yeah, no charging.
Okay, absolutely none.
And when we get back, you're the EV monitor.
All right, after a very necessary roadside stop, I'm now behind the wheel.
And with that very important business handled, let's talk about how this thing actually goes down the road.
Yeah, this particular Equinox EV is the all-wheel drive version, which means it uses 2 electric motors, one at the front, one in the rear.
Combined output comes in at 288 horsepower and 333 pound-feet of torque, which, for a compact crossover like this, is actually pretty healthy.
Yeah, 0 to 60 is under 6 seconds, which is plenty quick for something in this category. It's not trying to be a performance car, but it definitely moves when you put your foot into it.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about these electric motors. That instant torque makes merging onto the highway or passing slower traffic completely effortless.
Not that we're doing much passing today.
No, we're staying firmly committed to the 60 miles an hour and letting all the traffic flow past us.
That's right. Handling-wise, this is certainly tuned more for comfort and stability than anything sporty. The battery pack does sit nice and low in the chassis, which helps it keep its center of gravity nice and low, helping handling.
So even though it's an SUV, it feels pretty planted going through curves and out here going down the highway.
Speaking of the battery, the Equinox EV uses GM's Ultium architecture and an 85 kilowatt-hour battery pack.
Yeah, in the front-wheel drive version, that'll net you about 319 miles of range, and new all-wheel drive models get 307. But the 2024 our producers provided, 285.
Yeah, which, if you remember, is less than the distance from Richmond to New York City.
Yes. Thank you for reminding everyone.
Yeah. Well, on a DC fast charger, the Equinox EV can charge at speeds up to 150 kilowatts, which means you can add roughly 70 miles of range in 10 minutes under ideal conditions, or go from 10 to 80% in roughly 30 minutes.
Which would be incredibly useful if we were allowed to do that today, but unfortunately our charging port is still taped shut.
Yeah, so the big question for this challenge isn't really how fast it charges.
It's if we can somehow stretch that 285 miles of range far enough to reach the Big Apple.
And we're about to find out. All right, so sit rep. We have about 240 miles in now, and we're heading into Philly. So only about 83 miles to go.
Well, what does the car say? Do we have 80 miles of range left?
Not exactly. According to our fearless EV, we have 103 miles of range left.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. So that's maybe going to be enough.
Yeah, I mean, the margin of error kind of left the chat back in Maryland, honestly.
Which means every mile from here still matters, but we're kind of in good shape.
Yeah, so while we still have electricity, it's time for something even more stressful. Would you rather?
Of course, of course. That's right, we're going to go ahead and pit this Equinox EV against 3 competitors and say which one we would rather have.
Yes, because nothing helps range anxiety more than difficult choices.
Yes, well, an equivalent Equinox EV rings the register at around $45,000 when kitted out with Super Cruise like ours, but let's check our options. All right, so first up is something we did the same trip with last year, except making the excellent decision to actually charge it along the way, which of course is the Tesla Model Y Juniper Premium all-wheel drive. Of course, we used the launch edition last year. Starts at about $45,000, has 350-ish horsepower, and 4.6 seconds to 60. Which one would you rather have?
Hey, you know, with respect to Tesla, it started the segment and it pioneered a lot of innovations that we see on a lot of other EVs here. This is just such a good value for the money. I'm sticking with this one.
Yeah, the value here is excellent. And, you know, one of the things that Tesla always has done so well is that supercharger network. But a lot of the other networks are starting to kind of catch up. Yeah. You know, Electrify America is starting to build a lot more resources, and they're actually pretty good chargers. They sometimes will charge up to 350 kilowatts per hour. Obviously, this cannot make use of all of that, but you can actually get some pretty good charging with a lot of frequency. So I'm actually going to go with this as well. So not a huge surprise there. So let's go ahead and dive into our next option, which is one of the excellent EV offerings from Hyundai. We're going to talk about the Ioniq 5 SEL all-wheel drive. Also starts right at about 45 grand, 320 horsepower from those dual motors, 290 miles of range, so actually a little bit less than this, but pretty quick, 4.5 seconds to 60. Which one would you rather have?
You know, I really do love that Ioniq 5. I mean, I love the styling of it. I think it's really edgy and fresh, and the performance on it is really great. You know, I'm a performance guy. I'm going with the Ioniq 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I would still take this.
Yeah.
Honestly,
okay.
I think this is just such a great value. The Ultium platform is one of the best in the business, and you have the opportunity for Super Cruise. You know, Hyundai's offering is not bad, but this is just a little bit better. You're sitting there with your hands not on the steering wheel, which you literally cannot do in any other vehicle besides a Tesla or a Ford that has Blue Cruise. So I think I'm going to go ahead and stick with this. All right, so that Hyundai was actually pretty close to this, so I'm going to go ahead and pivot to something that I know you will love because you love Volkswagen, Fahrvergnügen and all. So I've got, of course, the ID4 Pro.
No.
All-wheel drive.
I'm good.
$50,000 to start.
Nope. I'm out.
335 horsepower.
No.
5 seconds to 60. 263 miles of range.
No. It's a jelly bean.
All right. You want to be lame, that's fine. It's actually a pretty capable EV, even if it doesn't look great. But a lot of EVs don't look great.
No, I'm good.
Well, I'm kind of with you there because I would actually take this too. So that's not a huge surprise. And frankly, for me, it's just because GM does such an excellent job with the EV. This is just a wonderfully capable piece of engineering and machinery. I'm going to actually choose this over that Volkswagen. And actually, Volkswagen just hasn't been very good with range at this point. So you can get this with all-wheel drive well over 300 miles now. So that makes it kind of an easy choice for me.
All right, well, game's over.
All right, time for the final push to New York.
And somehow, against the odds, we made it. After miles of careful driving, questionable sacrifices, and a steadily declining range estimate, we crossed into New York under the glow of the city lights, up the Jersey Turnpike, over the Goethals Bridge, then across the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, and finally into the city. The skyline came into view, and the number on the dash finally stopped mattering. We rolled into JFK with exactly what we needed, just enough charge to call it a success.
All right, we are now charging, so we can actually talk a little bit about this trip that we just completed. As we said, we had so much electricity left over, we were actually blown away to see the range falling a lot slower than our mileage was decreasing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when we got this challenge, we were pretty skeptical, right? I mean, based on everything we knew about taking road trips in cars, how many times we charged a Tesla to get up here, we were really blown away by how much further the Equinox went on this charge.
Absolutely. This thing is rated at only 285 miles of range. When we charged it to full, it was showing 300. The distance to where we initially were planning on going was 330. We actually ended up going about 350 miles on one charge.
I think a lot of that comes to like discipline, right? And you can't be flooring all the time. And hey, if you have a program like Super Cruise in your car, that's going to help you a lot.
Absolutely. And that's something we have to say about this fantastic car, because it is 11 o'clock at night. We are both dog tired, but the comfort of the Equinox EV, the nice features that Super Cruise provides for you to able, to rest your mind just a little bit as you're going down the road and not be hyper focused on everything, especially around these crazy New York drivers. It worked up here too.
Yeah, for the price, it's really hard to beat. The combination of features, technology, not to mention the engineering that went into this car, the ride quality, and it has plenty of room in the back for passengers and cargo. So a great road trip vehicle, especially considering you can fast charge it on CCS chargers that are pretty widely available.
Yeah, that's one of the other things that we noticed is there are plentiful CCS chargers. The car was begging us to charge at so many different places along the way. It was like, there's a charger here. Why don't you think about charging? And we're like, nah, we're fine.
Yeah, we got it.
And it was just so much fun to see our range projection start off in the negative for arrival and then progress all the way to the positive. Even here, 20 miles further, we still had about 11% battery left.
Yeah, so really, if you're very delicate with the throttle, you can make a really big impact if you're taking an EV car on a road trip.
That's right. So if you want to go further, go 10 miles an hour under the speed limit.
And on that fantastic revelation, it is time to end from New York.
That's right. Thank you so much for watching.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us on The Driver's Line. Hit that like button and subscribe for more car reviews, specials, and podcasts.
Holy Jesus Christ! Woo! Damn! That is some dangerous driving right there.
Dangerous driving.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.